snaps on all those guys, but that's just because of how the game played itself out. I know Cliff's in the rotation.
How prominent?
What's that?
How prominent?
Today's Tuesday, so we don't play till Saturday, so we have a long week of work to do, and we'll see it's all based upon that.
Can you talk about Jake Fisher and how he's progressed so far?
Jake's done a nice job, to come in as a true freshman and be able to get into the rotation, in the offensive line, and he's moved. He played a little bit of guard early, and now he's moved out to tackle and is starting to get settled down out there. But I've been real impressed with Jake just from day one when he got here to be an offensive lineman. It's probably the most difficult position I think. That quarterback to pick up as a true freshman and come in and be able to play, and Jake has proven he can do it. He's getting better each week, and you can see him growing each week. So.
Steven, have you been at all surprised by how well Taylor Hart has played for you this season?
Have I been surprised at that? No. When I see Taylor's work ethic and how hard he worked last spring through the summer, what he was like in preseason camp, he doesn't miss practice, he plays all the time. He's probably our hardest worker, one of our hardest workers on our team. And I believe your success is determined by how hard you work. That's why Taylor's having the success he's had right now. So it doesn't surprise anyone. It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise us.
Rick?
Talk a lot about playing a faceless opponent. This is the opener for the conference play. Is there any heightened sense of anticipation over opening up a Pac-12 play?
Every game we play is a Super Bowl, so if you can pick me a game that's bigger than the Super Bowl, we'll start calling it that. But this is our Super Bowl this week, and that's the way we approach it.
Rob?
Every goal passion's been on crutches. I would see somebody foresee getting back this year.
Molly?
What kind of challenges does Arizona pose on offense?
On offense, first and foremost, it starts with their quarterback, who I believe is one of the best in the country. Got tremendous respect for Nick. He's big, he's strong, he's tough. You watch the games, and I can't believe the hits that people lay on him. He just gets up and keeps swinging. He's very accurate. He's got a great knowledge of that offense. And I think their group of receivers is the best group of receivers in the league. Obviously Robert Woods is a great receiver, and a lot of schools have individual guys that can match up. But as a group, I think there's 6 deep at receiver with Roberts and Douglas and Kreiner and Crum, Buckner. It goes on and on and on. That's the real big thing is how do you handle their passing?
Adam?
I apologize if you've been asked already, but do you know at all if it's been addressed with Arizona, some of the crowd security issues and the offense they got?
That's not in my know.
Do you guys plan to alter at all post-game stuff and a lot of that stuff? I know goes on.
We haven't talked to anyone about it. So if someone tells me what to do, I'm worried about Nick Foles.
Okay.
Steve?
I believe it was either last week or a few weeks ago, you may have spoke to Don Malarkey, who was with Panda Brothers. What do you personally get from talking to a man like that?
From Don Malarkey, just a great admiration for what he did. The fact that he's an Oregonian, graduated from this university, I think it was a message that we wanted our players to understand.
Ken?
You talked a little bit about Foles. It seems to me, I'm a layman, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he gets rid of the ball really quick. Against a guy that 3 steps and it's away. What's the key to stopping that?
I think a lot of it's got to do with coverage. How close are you to the receivers on the routes, and can you disrupt them so that when he's trying to get rid of that quickly, those guys aren't open. So it's a big task for our linebackers and our secondary getting matched up with that group of wideouts. But he does, and that's one of the things that makes him such a good quarterback is his ability to get that ball out of his hand very quickly and accurately.
Dirk?
Coach, you mentioned Kreiner. They got him back last week versus Stanford. What does he do to enhance their offense?
He's their big play guy. I think he's got 5 touchdowns against us in the last couple of years. 5 touchdowns out of 8 catches, I think. And obviously, he's their big play, and that's what they're looking for. And I think he's done it, against a lot of different people. He's probably one of the top receivers in this league. The fact that he can play, a week after he had appendectomy surgery kind of speaks to his toughness and his ability. Plus, he's got great size. So it makes it a real difficult matchup for us, and really for anybody in our conference. I think trying to match up with Jerome.
Sam?
Talk a bit about Josh Cadu and what he's meant to the defense so far.
Josh brings great energy. He's a dynamic blitzer for us. He's really held down, him and Bill Seiko really held down our Sam linebacker position for us. They also move into defensive end sometimes. And some pass rush situations. He's also a great special teams player. He's one of those kids that you really can't get off the field because he's such a good athlete. Brings great size, great speed, great intensity in terms of what he does. Really has been one of the standouts for us on the defensive side of the ball in the 3 games we played so far.
Rick?
In fall camp, you mentioned that, you made a statement anyway, that there always seems to be somebody who comes out of fall camp, emerges, that kind of catches your eye as a bit of a surprise. Who would that be so far this year?
Jake Fisher, I think Anthony Thomas, Trey Carson would be those guys. Troy Hill is one of those guys that I think people didn't really talk about or know about, and then all of a sudden has really emerged as a really good player for us. Ronas Grasu kind of fits into that mold, I think, in terms of what he's been able to do and step in as a redshirt freshman play versus center. So there's a couple guys right off the top of my head.
Steven, what are the challenges that Arizona poses on defense?
On defense, you know, I think they've got a real talented secondary. They got some guys in Tremont Wade and Robert Golden who played a lot of football for them. So I think, you know, they've really improved in the secondary. I like Marquise Flowers. I think he's a tough, hard-nosed, physical kid. I know they miss Adam Hall, who was one of the better safeties in our league, but Marquise, you know, I think he had 16 tackles last week. They're athletic along the defensive line, you know, and they move a lot up front, so, you know, they really present some problems in terms of being able to stick on blocks and stay with them. I think they're so well coached, and Mike does such a good job with them, that they're very rarely out of position. They always seem to make it, you know, be sound in your approach to them because they're sound in their approach to you.
Brian?
Coach, if you could kind of talk about Colt Maierla and how he's picked up the offense and he's such a young guy and what he's brought to the receiving game.
Yeah, Colt's a work in progress. You know, I think he has been forced into being our number 2 tight end just because of injuries and has taken advantage of some playing time there. But he's still got a ways to go. You know, I've said this before. He did not play tight end in high school, so this is all new to Colt. You know, getting lined up, blocking, doing all those other things. I think it's a little bit more difficult than what he did in high school because he was more of a running back in high school. So he works hard, and as he continues to get in better shape, continues to be able to go more than 5 or 6 plays in a row, and continues to get a better grasp of offense, I think you'll see more.
As a quick follow-up, how does that help David Paulson, the fact that you guys have shown that Colt can score touchdowns? Will that open up Paulson a little bit to receive more passes here, and maybe defense might focus on Colt a little bit more?
I don't think so. Colt's got 3 catches in 3 games, so I don't think Arizona's game plan to stop Colt, to be honest with you.
Rob?
You mentioned Hall, and some of the injuries they've had on defense is personnel driven as you talk about the game being. Does it make it tough to scout a team going into a game when they've got some injuries? Does it make it hard to predict what they might do, how they might deploy?
No, because we've got 3 games on them. So in Marquise Flowers has played in all 3 games. Marquise had 16 tackles last week at Stanford. So you got a pretty good volume of work and looking at him, and he played a little bit last year. The same thing they lost, I think, Fisher was line. Guys have played some snaps for them. So, you know, if it was the opening game, then there would be some questions of how are they going to change, you know, with that amount. But we've got, you know, Northern Arizona and Oklahoma State and Stanford tape. So, you know, you got a pretty good idea of how Mike's, you know, thinking of using those guys.
Vanessa, we're going back to the phone lines. Are there any more questions awaiting? Please press *1.
*1 to ask a question. Your first question comes from Warren Williamson with the Oregon Ducks Football News.
Coach, 3 games in the books. I'm sure you've learned a lot from your team. What areas are you still working on? What areas concern you as you get into Pac-10 play or Pac-12 play here?
All our areas we'll continue to work on. You know, I think we've got to do a better job offensively of finishing blocks and just fundamentals of staying on people, not letting people fall off of you once you get latched onto them. You know, for our young players, it's still a matter of they've only played 3 games. You know, assignment, alignment. You know, get started playing with tempo. You know, ball security is always a factor for us on the offensive side of the ball. On defense, it's getting lined up fast, making sure you can understand where your keys are and what's going to bring you to the football and tackling. Things we'll continue to work on. So we're still in the early stages of the season. It's only 3 games in. We're getting ready to play game 4, but we need to continue to improve in all areas.
Your next question comes from the line of Patrick Finley with Arizona Daily Star.
Morning, Coach. Where has Darren improved the most since last season?
I I think he's doing a better job of understanding exactly where everybody is in our passing game and taking advantage of what the defense is doing. He's also done a better job, I think, in his fundamentals from a footwork standpoint and a ball handling standpoint, which I think is a natural maturation after just playing 1 year. I think last year was he knew where everybody was and what he was supposed to do, but really now the hows and the intricacies of how to do that, I think, are things that he's starting to really work on extensively.
That's fun for you to see as a coach, is to have your guys understand the house.
It is, and I think the biggest thing with Darren now, besides the house, is also the whys. Why are we doing this in this situation, and what are we trying to do, and really understanding the game. And he's a real student of the game, and has really developed from that standpoint. And spends a lot of time in the film room on his own. Has a lot of good questions every single week, for myself and Mark Helford, our quarterback coach. So, it's fun when you have a kid that's such an active learner like he is.
And again, to ask a question, press *1. There are no further questions at this time.
Okay, we're going back for a couple more questions here. Stephen?
School starts next week. At what point do you talk to the players about, going back to class, and when you do, what changes in their daily lives do you ask them to make for that?
We've talked about it extensively for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think a lot of our freshmen are going through orientation again right now in the afternoons after they get out of practice today. The only real change we do is things just get moved up a little bit earlier in the morning for us. We'll be practicing 9 to 11 instead of 10 to 12 because kids will start classes at noontime. So really just adjusting their schedule a little bit slightly. We always talk about trying to get into a rhythm, so that things are repetitive and doing things in a structured manner. So that really hasn't changed for us. We've tried to stay in that same structured manner as close as possible, just like we were in school. Our kids are off in the afternoons now since we broke camp. It's the same exact thing. Instead of being off in the afternoon, they'll be attending class in the afternoon.
Do they have to make adjustments in terms of their time budgeting that you talk to them about?
Well, they're going to have a lot less free time and a lot more classes. That's it. But I think from a football standpoint, they're done here. They'll be done here every day between 11 and 11:30, and then they're out of here. So I think it's just a matter of their afternoons have been free. Now their afternoons will be filled with classes and studying.
George?
Chip, when you were a kid, did you go to football games with your dad or anything like that? That's completely off. Did you, when you were a kid,
Yeah, I've been to games with my dad.
I'm just asking, what's your earliest memory sort of attending a game, or when did you become sort of a fan of the sport, that kind of thing?
Going to probably local high school games when I was a kid with my dad.
Were you a New Hampshire fan growing up or anything like that, or how'd that work?
I like Boston College because my dad went to Boston College. I went to a couple of those college games. I think I had gone to 1 or 2 of those when I was there. But most of the time, growing up the way I grew up, we were playing too. So a lot of times it was difficult. You could get to a Friday night high school game, but usually Saturday, playing Pop Warners and those other things, you were participating in sports yourself. So we weren't as much. I was more going to our games than going to watch college games.
Is it kind of an osmosis thing though, how you became a BC fan?
I think everybody, you kind of follow what your parents follow. My dad was a Boston College fan, so I used to go to those games just because it was close to.
Okay, thanks.